Friday, everybody. You're listening to the Dennis Prager Show. I have heard of this gentleman now for about a half year. And ever since I did, I said to Alan, we have to have him on the program. So I am delighted to welcome a man that I have never had the privilege of speaking to before, Walid Shoebat. Have I pronounced your name correctly, sir?
Hi, Dennis.
Is that correct?
Yes, correct.
Hi. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome.
You know, I used to listen to you many, many years ago when I was in Southern California. You were my favorite program. When I used to go home from work from Santa Monica to Garden Grove.
Really?
And I remember your statements even.
Really? I am really honored. I had no idea you had any clue who I was.
You have made an influence in my life.
Well, if I did, then my life is justified because you are certainly having a terrific moral impact on people.
Yeah, you were teaching love. And I remember even when we talked about communists, you said the Russians have babies too. And we ought to love even the communists. And I remember you talked about the family values and how people who don't want to have children are really selfish. And I don't forget.
That's very sweet. I don't remember saying love communists, but if that made a good impact on you, then I said it.
Which means we don't like communism, but
that's
we still
right,
got to love the Russians.
All right, fair enough. Well, that's wonderful. Thank you. That means the world to me. It's a very hard thing for me to properly introduce you. I'll do it from one article on you, and tell me if this is accurate. A Palestinian who openly admits to being a terrorist who bombed the Bank Leumi branch in Bethlehem, that's Bank Leumi is an Israeli bank, and nearly clubbed to death an Israeli soldier, now says he sees the folly of his ways, wants to convince other Palestinians to stop hating Jews, and would like to apologize to the soldier. Walid Shoebat, 43, says he experienced what he described as a, quote, brain change after moving from Bethlehem to the United States in 1978. Tell us a little about your background and what happened.
The brain change started in 1993. From my father's side, we were connected with Hajj Amin al-Husseini, and he used to be a regular guest in our home. Hajj Amin al-Husseini.
Right, the Mufti of Jerusalem.
The Grand Mufti of Jerusalem.
Who was a big pro-Nazi.
Yes, he was a friend of Adolf Hitler. He was responsible for stopping 500,000 Jews to immigrate from Hungary, all which died in the ovens, and created the Hanzar troops, the Bosnian troops, which was responsible for the death of 90% of the Jews in Bosnia. And here's this evil man in our home, which I knew little about until I came to the United States and started researching about him. Mm-hmm. And I made an oath of cleansing my home from this evil person. So I'm doing the same thing now, going around. What he used to do is go around all the media throughout the world calling for the death of the Jews. So I'm doing the same thing, going to the media around the world, calling for the life for the Jews, to save the Jewish people, and to stop the hideous, insane killings that are going on in the West Bank. And basically, right from my childhood, if I describe to you, Dennis, what is going on in the Middle East, people don't understand it. They say, what is going on in the Middle East? To put it in a nutshell, it is almost exactly what happened in Nazism. When I was young, we were robbed. The schools were robbed from the proper education system. We got the curriculum from the Hashemite kingdom, still was very anti-Semitic. The arts were robbed. When I listened to the voice of Palestine, calling for the death of Jews, when we went to the Temple Mount, listened to Ikrimah Sabri, the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem. And this is the predecessor of Hajj Amin al-Husseini, calling for the death of Jews, causing us to go stone the rabbis. When you go out of your house and you see graffiti, you can't find a square meter that is empty of graffiti in the West Bank. You can't find one. Oh, it's all over. Graffiti that says what? It says some things like, we knock on the gates of heaven with the skulls of Jews. Now, as a child, you get out there and you see all these things. You're influenced. Everything is robbed. The youth is robbed, just like Hitler robbed the youth. The youth is robbed now. They're having places for training for children to go as suicide bombers. So you have this Nazism with a religious twist. And dare you speak out against it, because then you're defaming a religion. And even though you're not trying to defame the religion, you're trying to expose it as something that shouldn't be part of the Islamic world, you're still going to get condemned. So I lived my life as a child hating Jews, literally. and seeked shahada, martyrdom, in accordance with what we learned Islam. We learned Islam in a fashion that is totally anti-Semitic. Martyrdom is the process of killing Jews. And, when I was a child, they taught us, well, we're against Zionism. We're not against Jews. But then you ask yourself the question, why do we blow up buses with Jewish children? Why are we shooting Jewish children in the head? What is the purpose if we're against Zionism? So basically also, just like Nazism, myth was being taught as fact. We were taught that we were the original Canaanites. Can you imagine? We were the original Canaanites. The Canaanites are of a Hamitic origin, and the Arabs consider themselves Semitic. So here's these things, and you hear Faisal Husseini, before he died, saying these things on TV. You hear Hanan Ashrawi, Yasser Arafat, supposedly educated people, saying that we were there before the Jews were. We were the original Canaanites. And lo and behold, I never knew this myth was false. And I had to come to the United States in 1993, started doing my own research, thanks to my wife, who asked me, she said, well, you've been saying that Jews corrupted the Bible. The Jews are prophet killers.
Which is the basic Islamic doctrine.
Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah.
I'm just explaining that it is basic to Islamic doctrine,
right,
that the Jews corrupted the Bible.
Yeah.
And so did Christians.
But although you'll never find in the Quran any verse that says the Jews corrupted the Bible. It doesn't exist. In the Quran, what you find is that some Jews have taken the context out, the text out of context. That they've taken the Bible out of context when they speak it, but never in written form. There's not a single statement in the Quran that says the Jews corrupted the Bible in written form. How would Muhammad have an argument to say he's one of the monotheistic faiths and say that God allowed his word to be corrupted? So she asked me, she says, show me these contradictions. And I had to go buy a Bible, and I studied it for myself. I fell in love with it. I fell in love with everything Jewish. Then I started to buy Jewish songs, Jewish movies, to try to understand the mindset of my enemy. And in the process, and now I've heard thousands of Jewish songs. I couldn't find a Jewish song that had the words kill or war. And I ended up finding one song that had the word milchama, which means war. And I ran to my Jewish friend and said, there's a Jewish song with the words of war. Mm-hmm. And they said to me, sorry to bust your bubble. The song goes like this. It says, and man shall not learn war any longer, from Isaiah.
That's right. Exactly right. I know the song.
I asked for my Arab friends, where are the Jewish songs that calls for our death? And I can show you thousands of our songs. Even secular singers singing anti-Semitic songs.
The most popular song in Egypt last year was I Hate Israel.
Really?
That's the single most popular song in Egypt. Mm-hmm.
Incredible. I mean, even like Farid al-Atrash, I don't know if you know him. He died long time ago. He had anti-Semitic, Sha'buna Yawm al-Fida, and all these things. And Fairuz had anti-Semitic songs. Kulthum, they all had anti-Semitic songs. Anti-Semitism was prevalent through and through, and it was so obvious. And today there is not a single apology from any Arab leader, from any Arab government, regarding the pogroms against the Jews, regarding the massacres against the Jews, regarding all the hatred against the Jews. We are so far behind, Dennis. So far behind. It's time for me to speak to my people and to say, enough is enough. I'm not the traitor. Yasser Arafat is the traitor. He takes children. He goes to the mosques and asks for women to give me their children. Give me the children for what? So they can join the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigade, so they can get killed in the process. And I said, here's the traitor. The traitor is the one that betrays the children. This is why I say, Dennis, today, the true occupation is the occupation of the minds of these children. And these minds need to be liberated. And it's our duty, my duty, and your duty to liberate the minds of these poor children, because they're really innocent. I blame the drug pushers, the hate pushers, and they exist in all the mosques in the Middle East, in all the schools in the Middle East, in all the books in the Middle East. We have a huge problem. And if we don't wake up, the world will never be the same.
My guest is Walid Shoebat. By the way, do you have a website or an organization or a book?
I have an email, the1@mail.com, THEONE @mail.com, and I have material. People are interested in material. And you can read some of my material on answering-islam.org/Walid, /Walid.
We'll be back in
Answering-islam.org.
answering-islam.org.
.org,
/Walid.